Hello everyone, my name is Pablo Manrique and I will be talking about the Symbolic Convergence Theory by Ernest Borman. As I mentioned in my summary, this theory revolves around the idea that groups of people form connections or relationships on the basis of shared fantasies in the way of dramatizing messages. These messages are things that may have happened in the past, that could happen in the future, or merely imaginative scenarios. Groups of people will be prompted by a symbolic cue to start sharing these messages, and that will prompt them to form a connection. So basically, the way I was able to understand the theory is that people form connections with each other based on messages and fantasies. I will talk about fantasies in a bit. For example, let's say you go on a trip to the Bahamas with your best friend and you take a lot of pictures. Every time you are together and either of you takes out one picture of the trip, you will most probably feel inclined to talk about the adventures and memories you have of the trip. During this trip, you might have created inside jokes that only the both of you will understand. Other people would not be able to understand your message or dramatization because they do not get the reference, and so you create a connection with your friend based on memories of this trip. The same thing goes for things that will happen in the future. Let's say you have not gone on the trip before but are barely planning it. Every time you are with your friend and you hear the name Bahamas, you're likely to start talking about the trip and all these plans and ideas that you will want to do, creating a connection or convergence with them. Now let's take a look at the variables that take place on this process. As you can see on the chart, we have symbolic cue, dramatization, fantasy chain, fantasy theme, and rhetorical vision. A symbolic cue is what prompts you to start the sharing of messages, or dramatization. In the past examples, our symbolic cues were the pictures and the name Bahamas. The dramatization is the act of sharing the message. Borman looks at the message as the whole drama that includes a scene where the action took place, an act. What was the action? An agent. Who did the act? An agency. How was the act made? And a purpose. Why did the agent do the act? The act of exchanging messages creates a fantasy chain, in which both parties are involved in sharing messages within the same fantasy theme. A fantasy theme is the overall idea that fantasies have. Let's use our previous example where we're planning a trip to the Bahamas. All of our messages will have a fun summer vacation fantasy theme. These themes create a rhetorical vision. This is basically a vision of how things should be. So, our rhetorical vision of our trip will be that of a perfect summer vacation. Lastly, this rhetorical vision will create a connection between you and your friend as you both share the same vision as to how your vacation should be. Now, this might be a bit technical, but think of the religious leaders around the world and all of the people they influence to come together based on their ideas. They are sharing a rhetorical vision of how the world should be based on religious teachings, and individuals who share the same vision will come together to form a huge group. This is the case on one of the articles using my summary, Setting the Vision, Symbolic Convergence Theory and I'm Sample Macpherson by Chris and Duration, in which the author basically takes Macpherson's, a very prominent religious leader in the 1920s, church and messages and dissects them to make visible the variables present in symbolic convergence theory. I hope this video was helpful to understand the symbolic convergence theory, and I really enjoyed reading about it.